Well, it is Sunday afternoon. I just got done spraying the red paint on the frame of the 900. We have the F350 in the shop here, and this is probably going to be a week or two from the start of this video to the end of it. We've got a couple of different things that we need to do to this truck, and it's going to come in multiple steps, and I'll explain why. I have a toolbox that I want to put into the truck, a back cab like rack thing, and a fuel tank. Before we can do too much, I have to have a spray-in bed liner put in this truck, which I'm going to have done sometime this week. I'm going to show you this fuel tank that I have. This fuel tank I've had for, or we have had, the farm has had for 20 some years. This is an L-shaped it's 105 or 112 gallon fuel tank. It measures 60 inches by 30, and then of course it's got a bump out in it for a toolbox to sit either in front of it or behind it. I'm going to have the toolbox sitting in front of it just so that I can have the hoses off the back. I don't want to feed the hose in between the cab and the, there's not going to be much of an area. The newer style tanks they sell now have they're elliptical, and we'll show you why. So what I need to do, I need to get some measurements after. I'm going to put the toolbox in, but I need to get some measurements here. If you look, there's a bump out in the front of the box there for, I'm assuming it's for the gas fill. They always used to have them, back here for the second tank on a Ford. Yeah, it's more or less for the gas fill. Kind of, sort of, and they mimic the same thing on the other side. There's 38 inches from the front of the box to the wheel well, and there's only about 27 and a half to 28 from where I need it to be 60 inches to the wheel well. So we either have to 45 the back of the tank or the front of the tank. We're so close. I don't want to do both. I'm hoping that I can just do one end or the other. So what I have is a diamond plated 27 inch toolbox. It measures 27 from the front of it to the back of it, and it's going to go across the bed, and it should be shallow enough that it's going to allow the fuel tank to go underneath it. So I'm going to set the toolbox in over the side rail of the truck. We're going to get that pushed up front here as far as we can. Get that to where it's got to be for the lid to open, and then we can do some measurements in behind it to see if we need to cut the front of the tank or the back. So let's go ahead and get this opened up. We'll set it up on here with the forklift, push it up front, get an idea of where it's got to go, and then we'll have, of course, take it back out, start working on our tank. And when I get this truck back from having the bed liner put in it, then we can go ahead and install our back rack, put the toolbox on, and then slide the fuel tank in as well. Actually, we're probably going to want to put the fuel tank in first because we're not going to be able to put it down in like this. So let's get the tank in there and then the toolbox after the fact. So let's set the toolbox in and see what we have for measurements. Well, we've got the toolbox setting in there. However, it doesn't really tell us anything because of the lid. The lid almost hits the window. So we've got to put the back rack on, and then we're going to have to space it accordingly so it has enough room to open where the back rack is. The back rack, well, we'll have to go over and get that. That's in the other building. Like I said, this is 27 inches from the from the front of it to the back, and then it is shallow enough that it's going to allow us to stick the bottom of the fuel tank in underneath it. There is another side. They do have another box that's deeper than this one. However, it wouldn't allow me to put I don't think it would allow me to put the fuel tank in underneath it. They do also make a 20-inch box, but what I wanted to be able to put my regular 20-inch toolbox inside it, and I didn't want it going lengthwise. I wanted it going from front to back so that it wouldn't slide around in there. Instead of having it sitting in the back of the truck, if I need to lock it up, I can put it inside this, and it just makes for an easier job to have hand tools right at the back of the truck. And then what I would use this for is, you know, holding larger items, parts for the corn planter, and so on and so forth. So we need to pull the toolbox back. We need to get the back rack out, set that, do a mock-up of it, and then push the toolbox up against the back rack. All right, so we've got the back rack opened up. This is a Magnum style back rack. So we'll have to move the toolbox back. We'll get it setting into place, and then we'll push the toolbox up to it and see how everything is going to line up here. What's nice about this truck is it's got the old lady step. So we've got a step here, and then we've got this handrail, so we can safely and securely jump up in here. We'll go ahead, pick this box up, slide it back to here, and then we'll have to lift that back rack up over the top of it and do it that way. I was hoping to get away with minimal mock-up so that I could just get working on this fuel tank, but it's looking like we're probably going to have to just install the back rack. I don't think that's going to be in their way to do the spray-in bed liner. So let's go ahead and move this box back and get the back rack into place. So it looks like we're doing an install of this back rack. There's not much to it. It's real easy. There is a plastic cap above the little stake pocket holder here. I took the one out of the right-hand side. I'll go ahead and reach down in here with a screwdriver and just pop this one out. Then they have this bracket here that is going to slide down in the stake pocket. And when that slides down in there, what it's going to do is you're going to shove a bolt through the side, and it's going to go ahead and catch this guy here, and then that's what the back rack mounts to, is this guy that's down in through the stake pocket. They have it very nicely laid out. They even have these labeled. We have driver side and we have passenger side. We can't put right side or left side because then you'll have some numbskull, I'm sure, that will be standing in front of the truck and they'll be fighting with it all day. They'll be putting the right one in on this side because they stood in front of the truck. I have guys here, when they work on a skid steer, they can't tell me if it's the right side of the skid steer or the left. They have to tell me that, oh, it's the passenger side. There's no passengers on a skid steer or a tractor or a forklift or what have you. So we'll pop that plastic insert out and then we'll show you what these look like when they're down in the stake pocket. I think they want me to drill a hole too, but I'm not too awful excited about drilling a hole down through the side of the box here. There's just a little bit of a lip right here, only about that much. So if I drill, I'm going to want to come up through the bottom so that I'm sure to miss the inside wall of this box here. So let's go ahead. Well, we can shove this one down in there. So this one's going to set down in about like that. And yeah, that's not working so good. I don't know what they want me to, oh, they want me to be like this. So I've got to be, yeah, like that. So that will put that in there, and then that unit is slightly below the top here. I got nothing that I can stick this camera to because I've got no metal inside here. I've got an aluminum back rack and an aluminum toolbox. So let me join up with you in a second here. Oh, there we go. We got metal there. This is just going to thread into it. Got a nice aluminum backer there. You know something? They're probably not going to like me too well out at the bed liner place, so I think maybe we will just take this right back off of there. Pop this guy out. Whoa, you went down. Okay, so there's that. Now we can go ahead and set the back rack up in place. So this will give us an idea of exactly where they want us to put this, going from front to back here. Alright, that's that left side. Now I'm just going to put the bolt down in this right side, and then we'll lift the toolbox up, set that into place, and we'll know how far back we're supposed to have it. And then we'll end up taking this all off in there, because I imagine they're going to want to come up into here with the bed liner stuff, and this is just going to be in the way. Again, we're just doing this so I can get that fuel tank ready to go here. So we have the toolbox just kind of sitting on there, and we need to mount or put another bolt in here, and I was worried that this bolt was going to be in the toolbox as well, which it is not. So that's good. We'll have to put a bolt right down through the toolbox, and well, we probably don't have to drill a hole in that back rack. The toolbox will hold it down as well. So that's where the toolbox basically wants to sit as far as it being front to back. We want to maybe get it just about, it's almost touching right there. And we'll put a little mark on this plastic side rail. Let's see, where are we here? We are just about evenly spaced, I believe. We've got maybe 3/16 of an inch here, and that should work with that. Now, on this back rack, which we could talk about it later on, it's got a track on there that you can slide in carriage bolts and mount different lights on there or what have you. So what we need to do now is figure out where we're going to be with the fuel tank setup. So I'll have to set a board against that toolbox and measure forward and see where we land. Well, we've got things figured out. We don't need to cut anything off of the front of the tank, but we do need to cut a corner out of the tank on the back side. So the tank is going to come back to here, and the height of the tank is up to there. But at any rate, it's back far enough that it's going to miss the front. However, we need to cut the fuel tank down to 50 inches. It has to be 50 inches to make the wheel well. And then the wheel well at that point there is about 7 or 8 inches tall. So we've got to taper the tank to fit that wheel well. These toolboxes, this one is 18 inches tall, and they also make one that's 23 inches tall. So that would put it down to there, and the fuel tank wouldn't end up fitting in underneath the toolbox. So being that we buy truck parts and stuff from these guys, I am set up as a distributor for them. If you guys are interested in anything, let me know. We can hook you up for sure. They have these toolboxes in the matte black. They have them in gloss black, and they also have them in regular aluminum tread, you know, the regular diamond plate. Well, this is diamond plate, but it's painted. So we'll go ahead and get this stuff out, and yeah, join up with you guys in the morning. Well, here we are. We are into the following week. It is Sunday, February 26th. Now, I went ahead and told you ahead of time that this was going to take some time to get all this stuff done. We ended up having spray and bed liner done by Rhino, the area Z-Bart dealer. Ended up spraying the bed liner in here. I wanted to have Line-X done on this just to try it out. It was considerably more money to have Line-X do it compared to this Rhino liner. This was like, I don't know, $650 or $700 or something like that. At any rate, we've got that done. I went ahead and I just got done putting seat covers on it. I know I didn't include you in on this process, but it's pretty basic. I ended up getting a set of Carhartt Covercraft covers to kind of preserve the seats. I've got some rubber floor mats coming. Not that we really need anything with the rubber floor that's in there, but at any rate, they have not come in yet. Now, what we're working on right now is we're going to put mud flaps on this. I went ahead and put one on already. These are called Husky Long Johns. And it's the same mud flap that I have. Well, they're a little different. These are Long John mud flaps from Husky. These ones here are 15 inches by 36, I want to say. The ones that are on the green Chevy are 12 inches wide by 36. I thought, you know, if the 15 wasn't going to work, we could just saw that edge off, but it looks like the 15s are going to work. So like I said, I've got the one on the right side. We're going to go ahead and put the one on the left. I'm not going to bore you guys by showing you drilling holes and all that crap. I'll just give you a few pointers along the way that I've learned as I am doing this on what procedure works the best. I have a couple of jack stands here. I set the mud flap on the jack stand with the tires straight. I'll measure out, I'm 2 inches at the body crease. 2 inches out, bang, drill a hole. Center it, eye it, make sure it's straight, plumb, and all that stuff. Work from that hole out and around and just get your holes all in there. Bang, bang, that's done. I have to turn the wheel to get, outside of taking the tires off, you can do it with a right angle drill. I turn the wheel a little bit to get these bottom fasteners in. I'll do the same thing. I'll move the jack stands to the back just to set them down on something so that you can measure it. The only other way to do it without the jack stands is have somebody helping you and measure it, mark it, do all that stuff. Once we get the mud flaps on, I'm going to put the back rack on and the toolbox. I did not get a chance this week to screw around with the fuel tank. I also have a rubber bed mat that I'm going to go ahead and put in on the floor of this truck. It did come with the tailgate piece. I'm not sure if I'm going to put the tailgate piece on or not, because sliding pallets in, if you ever so gently just graze that rubber mat, it usually pulls it up and it creates a bit of a mess. We have the Rhino liner on the tailgate, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that rubber mat. What I did with my one rubber mat on my Ram is I ended up putting it in the floor of the toolbox on the Chevy truck, so I might go ahead and do the same with this one. So let's get our flaps on. I'll join back up with you when I get that done, or I'll join up with you when I end up drilling a hole and missing the metal trim and coming right out through the box. So if we do something like that, we'll be sure to show you. So we'll get these on there and then we'll move into the next part of adding these accessories. Well, we have the front flaps installed, and I told you I would touch base with you if we screwed anything up. Well, we didn't screw anything up, but I did manage to drill into my finger. I was holding my finger on the back side, and I was trying to, once the drill went through, I was going to feel if I could see, I was going to see if I could feel the hole. You could see a little bit of meat still left on the drill bit. The first one, I got to tell you, is real easy to put on. It's the second one that is a pain in the butt, because you're trying to go off of your measurements of the other side. I was off 1/16 of an inch width-wise on this one on the left-hand side. What I did, drill a small hole and run the fastener and measure it. It was off a little bit. So what I did is I egged out that one hole so that I could adjust the mud flap from one side to the other. Once I got it established where I needed it to be exactly, I tightened that one in. And being that there's some washers on there, it gave me enough leeway that it did not bother the hole. And that was, oh, which one was it? I don't know if it was this one here or that one. I can't even tell. But at any rate, I had to Adjust that. Now we're getting ready to put the back one on. Same thing, set it on the jack stands. We'll measure out 2 inches from the crease in the body here. Get that one on. I'll probably have to do the same thing. I'll probably have to get an adjustment made. Adjustment hole made on that, and then we'll get the other side done, and hopefully I don't drill through my finger this time. So, well, let's get this done. Well, we've got the flaps all on there. I did have to remove the tires on the rear in order to get the inside hole drilled and to run the fastener in, so we still have the tire off of the right hand side. So we'll get the tire back on there, get our mat laid out, and then we can get our back rack on, get our toolbox on there, and then that'll wrap that up. So we'll join up with you once we get a little farther along with the back rack. That's going to wire into the tail lights on that, and we'll show you how that there is done. But these mud flaps are not exactly listed to go on this body style Ford truck. If you go on Husky's website, it says they won't fit. And the reason why it says that is because this fender well here, they've got this lip. It's tapered a little bit. So the mud flap doesn't really like to contour to it, but once you put them inside screws in, it kind of brings it around. You'll see it's kind of flared. It's kind of tipped out a little bit, but that's all right. What we want to be able to do is keep mud from going all down the side of the truck. The front ones will keep the stones from banging up against the bottom of the body, and then the extra width is just going to keep the mud and the spray from coming down the side of the truck. They look kind of gaudy on there, but they serve a better purpose than the little Mickey Mouse cookie cutter mud flaps that they put on there. Another thing that kind of hinders it a little bit, but I made it work, is it's got this plastic panel on here that is kind of supposed to protect the bottom of the body from stone chips. You got 2 options. Either you can mount it right over the top of it like I did. Actually, you got 3. You could take them right off, or you could get a plastic strip, I suppose, and you could run it upside the wheel well. Another thing I thought of doing, I thought about cutting this lip. You could cut this lip in a couple of spots and just bend it. Well, we're only mounting from here down. You could cut it in a couple of spots and then bend that lip over, and you would have more of a perpendicular lip to fasten to, but we made that work. So let's go ahead and get our wheel on, get our mat rolled out, get the back rack on there, and get this done. Well, we've got the mud flaps installed. I have rolled out the mat, and now we are ready to install the back rack. Now, we originally had this on the truck with the toolbox and everything so that I could get some measurements for the fuel tank, and I never got around to getting the fuel tank ready to go in this anyways. I couldn't leave everything installed because we had this bed liner sprayed into it. So there is a little plastic cap that you lift out so that you can set these guys down inside the stake pocket. So this is gonna fiddle down in there like that. Leave your other bolt in, set that down in there, and then you can bolt the side bolt in, which is gonna go right through the hole that's in the side of the body. So we'll go ahead and get them loosely set in there. We'll get the back rack set up on there, and then we've got the wire harness, and we'll show you where that plugs in here. It says that there was a warning tag on here, and it said this module needs to be inside the truck. Well, you can't put this inside the truck. It's going to be underneath. So we're going to have to fasten this up out of the way. We've got a couple of plugs where this plugs into, and then we'll string the wire up through the frame of the truck. We'll get that zip tied and get it plugged into the headache rack. So let's go ahead and get the mounts set, get the head rack up on there, and then I could show you where this plugs in at, and then it looks like we've got to bring power into this guy from the battery. They sent me a fusible link as well. And I don't know where we're going to secure this guy, but it looks like it's pretty well sealed, so we'll get that installed. All right, that is rather simple, the way this goes on. Now what they do say in the directions, you have the stake pocket holder on each side, but you do need to put another fastener in on the back side. However, we're gonna wait to put that in until we get the toolbox mounted on here. The toolbox is gonna be setting up on this lip by a little bit, and the toolbox will be holding the back side down. It is, well, it's sturdy enough, but you do need some support on there because you could lean a ladder up against the unit. You know, you could put a little bit of weight on there, but you don't want to break these. These stake pocket fasteners are really not all that heavy duty. So we'll go ahead and we'll roll in underneath the truck here, and we'll show you where that guy there is going to plug in, and then we'll run the wire up through alongside, inside the frame rail or whatever. I need to zip tie that down. So I would say the best thing to do is to hook the back up first and then run the wire up alongside the frame, because if you do it the other way around, you've got to travel down alongside the frame with all of this stuff. So we're going to go ahead and get that plugged in, run the wires, and I got to run a power lead as well. So let's roll in underneath here. We'll show you where this plugs in. So on the right hand side of the Fords, up in underneath the truck, right between, get another light out here, just to the other side of the trailer hitch frame, there's a plug that sets in and it's hooked alongside the frame itself. I've got these unplugged now. So this larger plug here, that was plugged into this one, and what there is like a T connector that's going to plug into that one, and then the smaller one. So we'll go ahead and get that plugged in, and we'll run our wires, and then we'll show you what that looks like once we get it all plugged in, and we can show that a little easier here. Well, we've got everything wired and plugged in. We undid our pigtail on the back here. It's just a T-type connector. You unplug one, plug in one side of the wire harness, plug the truck back in, bang. You've got that. Just two different spots. You also need to run a power wire. We just got done running the power wire, and I ended up coming off of the battery direct. This truck does have upfitter switches. I was originally going to go into one of the upfitter switches. So you got a fuse panel right here. I've got that unhooked, and there's a wire harness. All these wires are taped together underneath this fuse panel. This just clips in here, something like that. So you pull this fuse panel up, fuse block, and then undo all of the tape, and those wires are all identified. Now, if you don't have upfitter switches, you're going to have to go off of the battery as well. The one problem I seen with going off of the upfitter switches, for some reason, if I turn the switch off, we're not going to be activating these lights on this back rack at all. It would be a good option to have that option to be able to turn the lights on and off. Maybe if you had something stacked up in the back of the truck and you didn't want the reverse glare of the lights every time you hit your brake lights or your directional coming back in the window or reflecting off of whatever you had in the back of the truck, maybe it would be a good idea to be able to have that option to turn that back rack on and off. But for right now, we are just powered off of the battery. Again, I can switch over to the upfitter switches, which on the Fords, they are up in the headliner. There's 6 options, 2, 4, 6 options there. And I know one of them or maybe 2 of them are the higher amperage. So that's what we're gonna run the fuel tank from, so that I haven't gotta run a hot wire from the battery. I can run it from that switch, and then it'll be powered. Well, I don't know if you can do off a key power or constant power. I don't know if there's an option there or not. What you should do yourself a favor and do not use the junk butt connectors that they send with this kit. Those ones there in 6-month time are gonna corrode, and you'll thank me later if you use shrink wrap style connectors. That's what we have used here. And they seal up a lot better. They're not 100%, but they're a lot better than the Mickey Mouse crimp style. You'll thank me. So we'll go ahead and we'll demonstrate this quick here. I don't know, I didn't have to start the truck. All I had to do was turn the key on. We've got our marker lights there. Got our left directional, right directional, and that is the way that works. Now, some of you might be just tuning in for the first time to see, you know, the back rack and whatever like that. For those of you that have been with me for a long time and have already seen and have caught up to all these videos, my daughter's been driving this to school, so that's why this truck is decorated on the interior the way it is. So I don't know if you've noticed some of that stuff, but that's why. So she's using it to get back and forth to school until we need to throw it into its new work environment once we get everything all put together here. So I'm gonna go ahead and crawl in underneath the truck, tie all them wires up, and then I can go ahead and get the toolbox on there. Now, again, for those of you that are just tuning in, we sprayed this truck with fluid film, and what a dirty mongrel it is underneath there. Well, my right arm isn't all that bad, but it is grubby underneath there running all of those, well, not all of those wires. We've got 2 wires. So let's get in there, tie that up, and then we'll carry our toolbox over and put it on. The one thing I don't have is the shim that fits underneath this toolbox. So I've got to get some pieces of aluminum cut, and we're just going to slide them underneath the toolbox, and then the toolbox came with some clamps, and then we can wrap this job up for now. Well, that should about do it. We've got the toolbox bolted down. I ended up cutting a piece of conveyor belting that I put in the floor of the toolbox, and then we'll show you the bed mat here that is in the truck. It comes with a tailgate piece too. I chose not to mount that to the tailgate. Just, it ends up getting ripped off from pallets going in and out of the truck. And there is, you know, it's got rhino lining on here anyways. Outside of the plastic getting all broke off the tailgate, we'll have a hard enough time keeping that on there. So this tailgate has the old man step. which it came with the truck. I thought it was unnecessary, but man, it just makes things a lot easier to be able to jump up in the back of the truck. So we'll kind of show you what the inside of this toolbox looks like. I have the conveyor belting in the bottom, and then I ended up putting a regular rubber piece for the tailgate. I threw that in here as well. It wasn't quite wide enough from front to back, but if I leave it in the toolbox, I'll know where it is. There is a tray. It's got different dividers. You could pull all these dividers out. The tray locks against one side of the toolbox or the other. Usually I just take these trays out, but we could push it over to one side or the other here and choose to lock it down. You're gonna hear it do this all the time probably, so I might just take the damn thing out and leave the box open, but I wanted to show you what that looked like. This is a buyer's toolbox. This toolbox is 18 inches from the bottom to the top. There is a 23-inch box available. However, that would not allow me to be able to put the fuel tank in underneath the box. This box is 27 inches from the front to the back. They also make a 20-inch box, but I wanted the longer one so that I could get my regular chest toolbox in here. Now you might be asking, why do you need the chest toolbox if you have this one? Well, it's easier to have all your tools in one spot, have it on the back of the truck to work on something. The rest of this toolbox, we could put corn planter parts in, odds and ends items, log chains, stuff like that you don't want to get stolen. And I could take that toolbox, that little chest toolbox, and I can set it in here lengthwise, and I can lock it in this toolbox here. So we do have to get our fuel tank situated so that will fit in the back of the truck here. We have to cut the corners off on the rear side of the fuel tank so that it'll miss these wheel wells here. So with that being said, that is gonna do it for this video. I want to thank everybody for watching, and we will catch you at the next one. We do have a bunch of smear marks on here from the fluid film on my clothes. You can see the fender and the side of the box, along with the back of the toolbox. So we need to get that cleaned up. That'll do it, folks. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you at the next one.